It's time for today's travel and cruise industry news. With the latest from travel and cruises around the world, here's your host, Chillie Falls.
Hey, good morning and welcome to Travel and Cruise Industry News on this, the 11th day of June, 2020. Welcome to this channel, to all you folks out there. If you're new, we regularly talk about various facets of the travel and cruise industry on this channel. We do travel and cruise industry news on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday mornings at 11 o'clock. And then we regularly post videos on cruise ships, ports of call, cruises themselves. My interview shows are called Chillie Chats. But we stay pretty busy. All right, before we get to everything on the agenda this morning, and I will say good morning to Gretchen. Good morning, Bonnie. Glad you guys are with us. Chillie Cruises has learned that sometime today, the cruise industry is meeting with the CDC. Now, it's not likely that they're going to come to any agreement on the no sail date. As you know, the CDC has the no sail date in place through July 24th, I think it is, or 25th, whatever it is. Anyway, but people that are in the know don't feel that that's going to change with this meeting today. As a matter of fact, one of the analysts from JP Morgan said, and I quote, "We don't think an agreement with the CDC is imminent, but we do think negotiations with the industry are much further along than indicated." That's a good sign. Another analyst with Wells Fargo said in a recent note to his investors that they do not believe that this meeting will address the current suspension of sailings in U.S. waters, but instead will be focused on crew repatriation. Well, that's pretty much completed now. So who knows, folks? They're having a meeting today, at least, the CDC and the cruise industry. And if nothing else, that's a good sign that the two are together and talking. So we'll see what comes out of it. Cindy, good morning. Cindy's with us this morning from Dallas. Glad you're with us today, Cindy. Always good to have you. Okay, a personal story, folks, before I get on with, I got a bunch of stories to do, but I don't know if I've ever specifically talked about my back issues. I've talked about mobility issues before. You guys know my knees suck and I've had both hips replaced, and that's why we do the Scoot Around commercial. Because I use Scoot Around to get around the cruise ships, as does Bonnie's. Bonnie's one of the reasons that I do that. We both use Scoot Arounds on our cruises. But I have back issues over the years, and I went through several months of treatment. It's been a couple of years ago now. It was called spinal decompression treatment, and for the first time, literally, since I was a teenager, I was pain-free in the back. I mean, I've had pain issues with my back all my life since I originally got hurt diving from a high diving board when I was a teenager. But I've had issues all along, and being a big fat guy, that just exacerbated the issues. So I went through this decompression treatment, and I was pain-free wonderfully forever. As long as I could get in my pool at the Y and do my water aerobics, and I did a water aerobics class. It was with 30 women and me, but who cared? That kept me going, pain-wise, with the back. And that was fine for several years until COVID hit. And the Y course was shut down. I couldn't get in the water because of my other mobility issues, specifically my knee. I can't walk enough for it to be of any benefit to a big fat guy trying to get some exercise. And over the 4 months or so that we've been dealing with, my back has just gotten worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And finally, over the weekend, I was having some serious pain. One of the reasons I haven't been doing a whole lot with getting videos posted is because sitting in the chair, the back has gone to the point sitting at my desk like this really was bothering me. So I called the doctor back. It's actually a chiropractic office, even though it's other than chiropractic treatment. And asked him, I said, are you guys following the CDC guidelines on medical office? Oh, yes. You'll be safe. I said, okay, fine. Then I need to come see you. So I called him on Monday morning, and the first appointment they could give me was yesterday afternoon. So I went yesterday afternoon, and then they did this whole treatment business on my back, and it was feeling better. And he said, look, I want you to come back at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, which was this morning. I said, okay, that's fine, for another treatment. So I was the first person in the door this morning at 8 o'clock. And I went through another treatment. After you go through the mechanical part of it, they put you in another room, and they put these electrodes on your back, and they do all kinds of electrical crap into your back, zapping. It's strange, but it ends up helping, and it feels good. While I was doing that, which was right toward the end of my time there, they allowed a patient to come in with no mask, and they treated him. He went into the treatment room where I just come out of, and I'm sitting there with this electrical pulse going in my back, and I'm getting angry that this doctor is putting me and my family at risk by not following not only the CDC guidelines, but also the governor's guidelines on how to open a medical office. And I got royally, excuse my French, folks, pissed. And a couple of you guys have seen me before when I get mad, and when I get mad, I get mad. So I told the doctor was tied up, couldn't talk to him. I told the front desk girl, I paid my bill, and I said, I won't be back. I told her why, that, you're putting me at risk and my family at risk. I'm the youngest of three at 71, so, and all of us have some type of underlying medical issues. So we're very careful. We do not go out anywhere other than something special like going to a doctor or something. And that's supposed to be under the safest guidelines. So I got home, waited till I calmed down a little bit, and I sent him a scathing email on why I would not be back. So anyway, so that's my rant for the morning. All right, so let's get on to what we're supposed to be here for, which is, of course, travel and cruise stuff. My lead story this morning has to do with Jamaica. Some of you may have seen this yesterday. I know Bruce had it on last night. It's just terrific news that Jamaica is opening their borders to travel on the 15th of June. Where's my story? There's the story over there. Borders will reopen to international travelers to Jamaica on June the 15th. The Ministry of Health and Wellness will work in a collaboration with the Airport Authority of Jamaica regarding screenings of arriving passengers. Tourists will undergo voluntary COVID tests, but no quarantine. Screenings will include electronic thermal scans, face masks, and social distancing in public spaces will be required of all persons, including visitors. This includes points of entry, ground transportation, and accommodation facilities. But Jamaica is going to be open for business. Now, that is good for not only for Jamaica, obviously, but that's good for the cruise industry, and that's one of the building blocks. That is a place that if cruise ships can safely sail again, they will, in fact, be able to go to Jamaica. So, good sign. It also opens up things. There's some people out there that are normally cruisers, but would be uncomfortable getting on a cruise ship at this point because of the issues we had in a half dozen ships out of the 300 that were out there. There are people that would still travel and would not mind going to like a resort it's in Jamaica, for instance, say for 4, 5, 6 days, and to fly in and stay at the resort, all-inclusive resort or something like that, and do a vacation that way. I've done some vacations, all-inclusive vacations, and they're great. I prefer cruise ships, but that's me. And most of you guys on this channel probably feel the same way. But if you can't feel comfortable on a cruise ship, that's an interesting alternative. So that's some good news for a change. Now, we're going to balance that with some bad news. Alaska, the governor of Alaska made an edict yesterday. Let me see. I can't find the story. There it is. Couldn't find the story. The governor of Alaska has said that a new policy is in place that's not quite as burdensome as the previous rule, which required all out-of-state visitors to quarantine for 2 weeks upon their arrival. According to Alaska Public Media, the policy regarding self-quarantining was first put into effect about 2 months ago. Well, now they are going to require that you provide a negative test or proof of a negative test to COVID, and then you'll be allowed in. So that does away with the quarantine system. The test, which involves, and if you have the test done there, which you can do, the test involves the swab business into the nasal thing, and they'll get a result in 72 hours upon your arrival. So interactions must be limited until a second test can be administered 7 to 14 days after the guest's arrival, should it show anything other than negative. So that's what Alaska is doing, which is kind of a good thing. They've cut back on the quarantine business. They're going to make you prove that you're negative. Now, how that's going to affect cruise ships once they get started again. Now, we're looking at next year before we're going to have cruise ships to Alaska. I don't care what anybody says. It ain't going to happen this year at all. But by next year, that might be a different story. Okay. Now, we balance that with another story from Hawaii that Governor Inge in Hawaii said yesterday that he signed a new supplemental emergency proclamation that will extend the mandatory 14-day quarantine on out-of-state travelers from June 30th to July 31st. So that's a whole nother month that Hawaii is basically not taking in any visitors whatsoever, which means cruise ships, which means flights. If you fly to Hawaii, you've got to quarantine for 14 days before you can do anything. So that, that's not helping matters, helping our future for cruising any at this point. The 14-day mandatory quarantine on inter-island travelers will be lifted in mid-June. So right now, if you go from one island to the other, you're supposed to quarantine for 14 days. So that's some pretty strict stuff going on in Hawaii. So that's those aren't particularly good stories. The other story that, well, of course, one of the things that bothers me the most, and because this is really important to us all in the cruise space. We've had a resurgence of infections in this country the last couple days. And as of today, 19 states have hit their new all-time highs in new infections. What really makes it bad is of those 19 states that are having a bad time right now, 3 of them are Florida, Texas, and California. What happens in Florida, Texas, and California? That's about 90% of the cruise business in the United States is Florida, Texas, and California. I tell you, if their numbers keep going up like this, there's no way in the world the CDC is going to let a cruise ship sail again from those ports until they get a handle on it. So this spike that we've seen this week is from Memorial Day. What's going to happen now? We've had all the protests, and I'm not saying anything against the protest folks or what they stand for, or what they're doing. Totally, I'm okay with what happened, what they did, what they're protesting. So I'm not getting into that issue. But because you had thousands and thousands and thousands of people in close proximity again, yes, a lot of them wore masks, but there were people out there with no masks on. What's that going to do to this whole spiking business and the whole wave of new infections? I got the feeling the CDC is going to say, nah, ain't going to happen, folks. So, Norwegian, you probably saw this also on Bruce's channel. Norwegian announced that all scheduled Norwegian Jewel cruises from September 25th to February 27th, 2021 have been canceled. Now, they were supposed to be in Australia and New Zealand. So they're done away with those totally. And there's, as of this morning, there's still nothing saying where the Jewel's going to go. There was some talk that they might try to get the Jewel back closer to us. Norwegian is still showing that they're going to go to Alaska, and they haven't officially canceled some of that stuff. Who knows? But anyway, the schedule for the Jewel from September through February has all been canceled. Now, there's no news yet on what that's going to mean or what's that's going to do. All right, got to stop for a minute for a word from Scooter Round, and then we got a couple more things. Do you have a bad back, bad hips, bad knees, or any other mobility issues? Think about Scooter Round. For scooters, walkers, wheelchairs, even oxygen needs, delivered right to your cabin. Scooter Round for all your mobility needs on your upcoming cruise. Okay, I'm wondering if I'm having some signal problems. Maybe I better go check on some comments here, because my signal that on my computer is not doing real well right at the moment. No comments over there. Okay. All right. Well, we'll run down some of these and I'll get back to stories. Amy says, good morning. Amy's with us. Glad to have you. Tom Henry is here. Nikki's here. Of course, Bonnie's here. Gretchen's here. Glad to see all you guys. Cindy, of course, from Dallas, who said that. Emily's here. Good morning, Emily from New York. Had a good time with Emily yesterday as we had a cocktail party get together with some of our English friends in the Cruises for Solos group that I co-host their show on Sunday. So we did a little cocktail party get together last night, and Miss Emily was with us. Tom Henry, I got an email from Oceana today promoting the New York to Bermuda August 1st cruise. Will New York be ready? Seemed a bit optimistic. Haven't heard anything out of Governor Cuomo yet, Tom. To my knowledge, he has not addressed cruise industry per se. I don't know, but that one might fall back under the auspices of the CDC rule again. We'll have to see what the CDC says. Until the CDC gives their blessing, cruise ships are not going to sail in the United States. Doesn't matter who they are or where it's coming from. So Bonnie says she doesn't believe any of the emails she gets on cruises. Yeah. Amy says a few people with breathing issues are not required to wear the mask if it impedes their breathing, but they do test before they bring them into the office or store to make sure they are virus free. Yeah, that's true, but this was not one of those situations. This was a situation of somebody that just doesn't give a damn. But what it showed me was that the office doesn't give a damn. And that's not good. That's not cool with me. So I just won't go back. So Nikki says, glad to see doctors' offices are taking this thing seriously. You know, the only thing I've done outside the house, I've been to the dentist twice. I went to radiology consultants yesterday to have my semi-annual lung scan. And then twice to the chiropractic office, if we want to call it that. And that's it. I haven't been out of the house, leaving, where I was out in public. Other than that, my niece does all of our shopping. She does all of our, picking up our to-go orders. If we order from a restaurant, which we try to do on a regular basis, so that we keep them in business. That's it. The only times that I've been out of the house was under those circumstances for medical stuff. And so, yeah, the other offices are strict about it. You don't walk in the door if you don't have a mask on. Literally, they'll stop you from coming inside. It should have been that way this morning. So I'm just saying. All right. Let's see. What have I got here? I got Royal Caribbean story. Royal Caribbean, there's a little bit of a controversy about this one, but apparently they have postponed all of their upcoming amplifications. We call that refurbishments, but they call it amplifications. That's a fancy way of saying we're spending a bunch of money and making the ships better. But they've issued a postponement on the Allure of the Seas, the Explorer of the Seas, and the Liberty of the Seas, and the Adventure of the Seas. All of those were scheduled in this year for refurbishment. The Allure of the Seas has been postponed until further notice. And additionally, the pier construction in Galveston, which was delayed by all the COVID business, so that pier is not going to be ready to welcome the Oasis class ships, which Allure is. So the Allure will no longer be sailing from Galveston as planned. The Liberty of the Seas, which is sailing from Galveston currently, and is on the schedule currently, will assume the Allure of the Seas itinerary in late 2021. So I guess eventually they'll get that pier done and be able to take Oasis class ships, but that's going to be on down the road now. Adventure, Explorer, and Liberty of the Seas amplifications have also been postponed until further notice. All Explorer sailings will be canceled through August 2020 to complete a technical dry dock. So now And after this was released sometime yesterday, then they came back and said, no, we're going to do this. We're going to do all the changes that we talked about, and the new restaurants, and with the new water slides, and the racetracks, and Royal Caribbean does all kinds of craziness. They're going to do it eventually. So little changes in effect there for Royal Caribbean. Okay. I talked to Sheila Frantini. By the way, Tom, Sheila and her husband live over there near you. They're from, was it Mechanicsville, Mechanicsville in the Richmond area. Sheila, I asked her about their favorite cruise. They're basically Carnival guys. And most of you know, I've always been basically a Carnival guy too. I'm trying to expand my horizons recently, but I'm still basically a Carnival guy. But anyway, they like the Carnival magic of all the ships that they've been on. They've been on a bunch of them. So that's Sheila Frattini from over there in Richmond, over there near our friend Tom. He lives in Richmond as well. And then Jonathan's our travel agent friend from England that sails with a four-legged companion there, and is a special needs cruiser as well. But Jonathan is a full-blown travel agent, by the way. And I asked him about his favorite port of call. And this is a person that sails a ton in Europe, all over Europe. He's anywhere he's been, and just about any ship over there too. You know what his favorite port of call is? Key West. I found that surprising. I mean, I like Key West. I don't rank it up there as my top, 5 or 6 ports. But I like Key West. I have fun at Key West. I love Duval Street. Been known to party a little on Duval Street in Key West. But anyway, so thank you, Jonathan, for that. And we will continue with that program on asking people what they think and so forth. Okay, now let me get back over here where I was on the chat. Okay. Bonnie, have you seen that interesting NCL list for ship returns? No source noted. Hard to tell how legitimate it is. Bonnie says, Amy, where I live in South Park, Florida, people refuse to wear masks. I stay home. And I tell you what, especially senior citizens. Younger people that are full of P and V, excuse my French again. Okay, you're going to go out there, you're going to take a chance. If you get it, maybe it's not going to be quite so bad as it would be if somebody like me gets it. One of the things all along has been protecting the senior citizens. Now, why senior citizens don't see this, and they're going to be all bristly about somebody's telling me that I have to wear a mask. Yeah, you have to wear a mask for your own protection and for the protection of people around you. Dumbass. Excuse my French. I was getting fired up again about this morning. So Cindy says, thank you, Emily. I try to be here for all the talks. We have some fun. It was fun yesterday. Met some new people. A couple ladies from Scotland, and I got to meet some new people that I hadn't chatted with before. So, and we did it on Zoom. I'm sure Emily will tell you. I don't know what I was doing, and it was before I even took a sip of my bourbon and Diet Coke. I couldn't get on yesterday. I was struggling. Kept getting all these weird messages. But anyway, finally I got hooked up. I was the last one to join the group. Everybody else was on and going to town, and before I finally got on, it was ridiculous. But anyway, we had a good time. We're going to do that again next Wednesday. By the way, if y'all are out and about on Wednesday afternoon, was that at 4 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time, and that's 9 o'clock London time. So I think we're going to do it again next week. We had a good time. It was fun. Gretchen watched a video on Miami reopening and quickly discarded thoughts of a Florida beach vacation this year. Yeah, I tell you what, I'm more and more, folks. I had gotten so excited about some of the things that I heard, especially after our last Sunday show, that I was thinking, well, maybe we do have a chance of getting the cruises going again by the end of the summer or early in the fall. And now what I'm seeing on numbers from 2 weeks ago, man, it's looking shaky again. And I'm telling you, 2 weeks from now, folks, we're going to see a major wave, I'm afraid, and be back in the same situation that New York was in when things first started, and they had it the worst. And believe me, folks, and I'm not making a political statement, New York, that was awful, and that area, that whole area up there, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, that area was awful. And they have done a masterful job at getting it under control. Their numbers way down. They're opening up their economy again. It's slowly, but they're getting it started. To me, and I'm not saying that politically, they've done a masterful job. And I see other states that, to me, are failing miserably. And I think that's going to hurt us in the long run. I really do. And I don't want to be because I was getting so excited thinking about maybe we get on a ship again soon. Anyway, let's see what we got up here. Bonnie says she never heard of stuff about blood types. I missed out on that one. I'm a B, I'll be an O, nobody in the family an A. I don't know. I missed out on your comment about blood type, folks. I'm sorry about that one. There's so many comments today. So many you guys get these conversations going, and I'm trying to keep up with them. I miss stuff pretty easily as I'm trying to scroll through them, because I'm trying to do 7 things at once, and I don't do 7 things at once very well. I can do 1 thing at once, halfway. So anyway, I am going to get back in the pool today. That's the other thing about my back. And now I'm not going to be able to go for a treatment from, if my back gives me grief again, but at least I got my pool now, so I can start my own water aerobics classes, which I've been doing. That's, if any of you follow me on Facebook know that, I've talked about, doing some light workouts in the water again, because I got to built myself back up. 4 months with me with no activity, and I went to hell. Excuse my French. So I got to build back up to where I can, get a good hour workout in the water. So, but at least I got the pool here to do it, since I'm not going anywhere else. I'd be uncomfortable. The Y's open. The Y opened Friday. I'm not comfortable going to the Y yet. Again, not just for me, but because of, my sister and brother-in-law here. They're 10 years older than I am. So, when I'm in my 70s, they're in their 80s. We gotta be careful. None of us want to, be on the list of, that kick the bucket because of COVID. So anyway, I'm being morbid again. Amy says the mayor of New Orleans, Latoya Cantrell, is allowing events of up to 100 people, but said cruise ships were a floating virus, will not be allowed during phase 2 of reopening. Well, I would disagree with her on that, because I do believe the cruise ships have made major strides in eliminating that from happening. Again, those half dozen ships that had major problems, she would be right, but she's not looking at, you had 6 or 10 or whatever the number of ships were that had serious problems, and there were a couple that were really bad. But there was also, 290 some cruise ships out there that had no problems. So, I mean, cruise ships have always been, a minor problem, and this made it worse. But now with the steps that they've taken on all the proposals they're putting into the CDC on how they're going to handle it, that's the least of my worries. I have more worries with, fools walking around with no masks and the chance of me picking it up that way. And I don't know how much are masks going to be required on ships. Who knows? Well, I'll have to wait and see. If I could go on a ship, would I go right now, even wearing a mask? I don't know. Again, I've still got to come home to two folks that are older than I am. So, yeah, when that time comes, I got to weigh some serious options, as all of us have to do before we can decide on going again. So, Tom Henry, then there is the WHO claiming asymptomatic transmission is not a concern. Boy, I saw that, and that's one thing. I'll fuss at the president on some things, but boy, he made the right call on giving the WHO hell about stuff, because they've absolutely made some major mistakes, I think. The mayor allowing 100 people. Bonnie says the mayor, that's crazy. The mayor of New Orleans allowing 100 people to congregate. Bonnie, as they start going into to the reopening stages, one of the later stages is letting groups back together again. I think New Orleans may be a little bit early on that. I'm not sure. Again, time's going to tell, and that's one of the things that, I'm not real fond of having to wait to know things. But, I've been wrong on several of my thinking about this from the start, and it just seems like it's just going to continue. So, at any rate, I'm really hoping. Gretchen says I'm hoping for a vaccine. Yeah, and I saw there was one this morning. Another one. Some trials are starting on a treatment that would be good. Also, we know the vaccine is coming along, but we don't know until it gets tested. So, they got to have time for testing that stuff to make it purely safe and effective. And Bonnie says Jonathan Fletcher. Yeah, Jonathan's as a travel agent over in somewhere in England, London area, I think. He's a friend of Pete's. He was on Pete's first show that Pete did on deals for solo cruisers that Pete did earlier this week. Jonathan was his guest on that. Bonnie says she does wear a mask when she leaves the house for doctor's appointments. Yeah, that's required here. And it's just, that's one of the things the CDC has said. You go into a medical facility, you wear a mask. Bonnie says she's successfully done Zoom once. Oh, I've done it several times, and I've done a Zoom where I did the thing up, and how I got screwed up yesterday, I'll never know. But that's just me getting anything screwed up. So, Anyway, Emily says, congrats on the pool. Yeah, I am so enjoying that. Oh my goodness. I got a, super chat. Thank you. Thank you, Bonnie. I do appreciate that. For a new pool float. Thank you, Bonnie. I will put that to good use. I promise you. Amy says, I've started watching a YouTube channel called Unheard, which has interviews with scientists and doctors from all around the world talking about COVID-19. It actually makes me feel better to watch it. Oh, that's cool. All right, that gives me something to go check out. I will do that. I've always been somebody that watches sports like crazy. Well, there's not a whole lot of sports you can watch now. I find myself watching horse racing. Why? I don't know anything about horses anymore. I used to when I was in Kentucky, but it's a live sporting event. And of course, I've always been a NASCAR fan, so I watch the NASCAR races, even though there's nobody in the stands. For years I sold funnel cakes at NASCAR races, so I know a lot of those folks. But anyway, so yeah, if I've got something that I can sit down and watch, I'll check that one out. So thank you for that. Information. Cindy suggested get a lobster float. Yeah. Could you see my fat butt on a lobster float? That's good. Yeah. Cindy's granddaughter has one. She loves it. Yeah. Well. Anyway, I do appreciate that. Thank you, Bonnie. That's always appreciated. So, all right, that wraps me up for today, folks. Well, I don't have a guest yet for Sunday. It's my job this week. I have a bunch of invitations out for a guest for the show, this Cruises for Solo show in London on Sunday. I've sent invitations to a bunch of travel writers, to a bunch of travel agents. I was trying to find a European travel agent other than our friend that we've talked to already, because we want another perspective. Of course, he volunteered. First thing when we found out I was looking for a travel agent, John says, "Well, I'll be glad to do it." But he's been on the show once recently, and then he was on Pete's show this week. So I was looking for a different travel agency to give a European perspective. I haven't been able to come up with it yet. I've talked to several people and on recommendations, and I've sent a bunch of invitations out. I must have had a half dozen folks. I've sent invitations to come on the show that are to travel writers. I even sent the Minister of Tourism in Jamaica an invitation for he or one of his staff. So I'm trying to get somebody on the show. And I still have not gotten set up dates for. I've got a commitment from the CEO of Bahamas Paradise Cruise Line. I have not been able to get together with him on a date to do our interview. The same thing with Dave Monk from Shipmonk. We have not come up with a time. So I've got a couple major interviews coming up that will be using some on our show here, as well as on Chillie Chats. So anyway, that's going to wrap me up for today. I've gone long enough. So you guys all stay safe. Wear your mask if you go out. Try to stay in as much as you can, and stay safe and stay healthy. And I'll see you guys on Saturday, unless something major happens between now and then. This is the Fat Travel Guy. You guys have a great day. Oh, by the way, before I slip out, my words of wisdom for the day, now that I've lived through an actual plague, I totally understand why Italian Renaissance paintings are full of naked fat people laying on couches, as that's what I do a lot. Later, y'all.
Thank you for watching today's travel and cruise industry news. Join us every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern for another episode. Travel and Cruise Industry News is a production of Chillie's Cruises.